Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully, everybody are doing great. Well, we are already in the last week of January. Time flies. So, this is our second meeting for our public speaking and presentation technique class. Today, we are going to discuss ethics and public speaking. I'm pretty sure that all of us have ever been in a situation, especially when we communicate with people from different culture. I remember back in 2008, hang out with my friends in the US, and some of them told us funny stories, and I found myself being very stupid for not being able to laugh at their jokes because I found it not funny. Instead, I found that it was rude. So that can be an example on how speech can cause misunderstanding. We can misunderstand message in communication because of different culture. Today, we are going to explore the ethics and public speaking. So we do have a lot of choices. What we're going to discuss today is especially during the speech. There are some strategies that we should apply in our public speaking activities. So before we go further, before we discuss about the ethics and public speaking, we're going to review some points that we discussed last week. So first is going to be the difference between public speaking and conversation. Both are activities that people do to express thoughts and share informations and messages with one another. But for public speaking, it is more structured, so it is more formal. So we can also see from the language that is used in public speaking, while in conversation, the speakers are going to use more casual language. Public speaking is more structured. There is a clear cut distribution of activities between the speaker and the audience. So, usually in public speaking, there is going to be a question and answer session in the end of the activity. And now, related to public speaking competency as a speaker, we can gain power because of the words we say during the speech and the message that we share with others, with our audience through the speech. It is also closely related to employment. So imagine that we are in a job interview. So of course, our prospective employer is going to consider, is going to give us a position depending on how we express our thoughts during the interview. But there are a lot of challenges faced by a speaker, especially beginner speaker. So that's why there are a lot of things that we need to remember, especially in preparing ourselves as a speaker and preparing our speech, including our materials. So we're going to be able to deliver our speech effectively. So why public speaking can be challenging? Well, it can come from the both the internal and external factors. The internal factors are related to the speaker herself or himself, related to their preparation, how they prepare speech, the materials that they have, the visuals that they use to support their speaking activity, and also the language that they use during the speech. And also external factors, especially the audience. I would say that speakers are not born, but they are created by the society in this case, and they create themselves. For example, President Sukarno, right? And the former president of the US, Barack Obama. And who is the other one? Um, Malala Yousafzai, the teenager from Pakistan, right? They are great speakers. It is not because Barack Obama's father was a good speaker, so that's why he is a good speaker. So it doesn't happen that way. There will be a possibility that every day we are going to communicate with people from different backgrounds. With that being said, we are going to need to tailor our message. We need to polish our message in order to be able to accommodate, or in this case, ethically accommodate people from different backgrounds and different language. So in this case, I would say that both listeners and speakers should have the same respect. We are able to share message to others because we previously listened to those messages. Most of the time, we are copying other people's message. We are also going to talk about that in a minute. Our audience are going to listen to us. We need to make sure that listeners and speakers are going to be equally respected. We are going to be able to share message with others because we listen to similar messages. So most of the time we're going to copy some other people's message. How to copy other people's message safely, we are going to talk about that in a minute. So consider this picture, for example. Do you know the meaning of this particular gesture? Oh, like this. What does it mean? Anybody knows the meaning of this particular gesture? Probably it is. I would say that it is not universal, just like many other gestures or nonverbal communication. So, like in the US and probably in our country as well, it means okay, right? This particular gesture means okay. But if you go to some other parts of the world, you communicate with people from Latin America, it has a totally different meaning. So it has a negative connotation. I heard that, I read somewhere that in Brazil, it means it has an obscene connotation. So it is the same way when we give our middle finger. So be careful. So that's why considering ethics in our speech is very important. Ethics itself is a branch of psychology that deals with moral, immoral, right or wrong. I would say that it doesn't have any legal consequences, but it is going to have moral consequences. So if you say something that is considered unethical in your speeches, you are not going to go to jail. I guarantee. But you are going to be labeled in order to make sure that what we're going to talk about during our speech is ethical, is by paying attention to our goal. We need to make sure that our goals are ethically sound. This kind of reminds me of an experience that I had a couple of years ago with hunting for scholarships. So, some of our students were offered scholarships from the major cigarettes company. So, Jarum, Beasiswa Jarum, and Beasiswa Gudang Garam, if I am not wrong. So they do have dilemma whether to accept the this opportunity or to withdraw from getting the scholarship, considering that it is a cigarette company. I mean, considering how people view smoking in our society. So probably one of my students can say something like this: "Oh, I can take it. I plan to take the opportunity, and I'm going to promise myself that after finishing the scholarship term, I'm going to use my knowledge to help the community, for example, of how to quit smoking." Well, that's rather controversial, right? But anyway, just make sure that the goal is ethical. Sometimes it is rather hard to decide whether something is ethical or unethical, depending on where we are in the society, where we live in the society, right? So we need to do some research on this. And then the second one is be fully prepared. So remember that preparation is 90% from the entire speaking activity that we do, actually. Do not waste our time and do not waste our audience's time. So just imagine if we are going to speak for 20 minutes, for example, in front of 100 audience. If our speech is crappy, if our speech is bad, we are going to waste 20 minutes of our time. But wait, we need to think about our audience as well. We are going to waste 20 minutes times 100 people, right? So that's not good. And then be fully informed about your subject. We need to do a lot of research in order to be knowledgeable and resourceful, so that we're going to be ready if our audience ask us questions. And especially with speech that involves sensitive subjects or sensitive topics, tough topics, we need to always remember our ethical responsibility. We are going to have people that are going to listen to us and probably do what we do or follow our suggestions, for example. And then be honest in whatever we say. Being honest is important to ethical speech making. However, I would say that sometimes we cannot avoid what we called white lies, right? Remember we talk about saving face? Saving face acts is a term that we can find in pragmatics. This term was first found by Brown and Levinson in order to keep our speech ethical and in order to not to hurt our audience. Some example of dishonesty in speeches may include juggling statistics, so presenting misleading facts, and then quoting out of context, so something that is not really related to whatever topics that we have. Citing unusual cases as typical example. So for example, cases that are considered very sensitive or that is supposed to be protected, and then citing a half-truth as evidence or proof. So for example, we should not use an evidence or information if we are not really 100% sure about what we want to share with our audience. In order to present ethical speech, there are a lot of things that we need to remember. Um, the first one is to avoid what we call name calling and other forms of abusive languages. Name calling is usually used to defame or individuals or groups or to silence an individual or group of people. One example of name calling is calling African American as nigger, or some other forms of abusive language, like something that has like a bad connotation, like idiots or stupid. Well, stupid probably is okay. We should also avoid using the sexist language. For example, when we talk about profession, then we use male related term in profession, for example, policeman. So we need to use police officer instead of policeman. We need to remember that name calling is usually used to silence people, so to hurt people, to make sure that they don't have any power, so they're gonna be silent. So we should avoid using that. Um, and then once again, it doesn't have any legal consequence, but it has ethical consequence. So we're not going to go to jail just because we use name calling, but it's going to look bad. We need to put ethical principles into practice. So we need to think about whether our choice of topic is suitable for the audience. remember who our audiences are, which group they belong to, what age, their ethnicities, their nationalities, their language backgrounds. So, in order to speak ethically, we need to act ethically. A couple of slides ago, we have discussed that speaking and listening are both important. There are some ethical considerations in listening. So when listening to others, we need to remember of some ethical considerations as well. So we need to respect the speakers by attentively listening to them. In this case, we need to support one another because we want our voice to be heard as well, right? And most importantly, we need to avoid prejudging the speaker, just as the proverbs say, never judge a book by its cover, right? So it's kind of like judging about the speaker before we actually listen to this person when he or she talks. Maintain the free and open expressions of ideas. So everybody are free to share their ideas, their messages to others. Maintain the right that speaker has to be heard. We, both speakers and listeners, have the right to be heard. They both have the right to be respected. And finally, related to ethics and public speaking, we're going to talk about plagiarism, the act of stealing somebody else's idea and regard it as our own. So, without giving credits to the original owner. So previously we talk about plagiarism when we talk about writing, but it also applies when we talk about speaking. There are three main kinds of plagiarism. The first one is global plagiarism, and then we have the patchwork plagiarism. The last one, we have the incremental plagiarism. We're going to discuss about this one by one. Global plagiarism is stealing speech entirely. So we copy someone's entire speech and we claim it as our own. Usually it happens because we postpone our task until the last minute or procrastinating. I'm pretty sure that everybody have done this, right? I've done that a lot, and I sometimes I cannot avoid it because sometimes we're overwhelmed with the activities that we do every day, right? So I would say that it is better to do it late than to plagiarize. But the best thing to do is to prepare your speech early on. Okay. Avoid procrastinating. The second one is patchwork plagiarism. So it is stealing ideas or languages from two or three sources or more sources and claim those ideas or languages as your own without giving credits to the original owner. To avoid this type of plagiarism, I would suggest that you do a lot of research and come up with your own idea, come up with your own point of view in interpreting somebody else's idea or language. The last one is the incremental plagiarism. When a speaker fails to give credit to a particular parts of a speech that are borrowed from other people. So it can happen because of the difference in viewing plagiarism itself sometimes. For example, as somebody who grew up in Southeast Asia, it is very common that we learn by memorizing a lot, right? So I remember when I was in the third grade or fourth grade of elementary school, I was able to memorize the entire constitutional law, the Indonesian constitutional law. Um, right now, I cannot do that anymore. I forgot all of it, but maybe some of it. So because we are able to memorize a lot of things, then sometimes accidentally we mention something and we forget to acknowledge the source. or we quote what Dr. Martin Luther King said, for example, or President Barack Obama said, because we thought that, public knows about it. It is quite popular. So we need to always remember that giving credit to the owner is important. Not only important, but it is an obligation to avoid plagiarism. One strategy to avoid this type of plagiarism is by restating or summarizing or paraphrasing somebody else's idea using our own words in order to be safe. We always need to remember that giving credits to somebody else's idea is not only important but obligatory. So, the last advice that we can have to avoid plagiarism is by making sure that we cite all sources that we use in our speech. So our discussion today is taken from Lucas. So guys, this is the second task that we're going to do. Just like your first task, I would like you to record a 60 seconds video on your strong reaction. Remember, I highlight the word strong here because I would like you to make sure that you really want your message to be heard. You really want others to um, really listen carefully to whatever you said, to your message. You can choose one of these two tasks right here. The first one is the hashtag no Indonesian girls. The second one is hashtag anti-mask. So both hashtags have been circulated a couple of months ago on the internet. You can Google them. The first one emerged because of the incidents in Snapchat. I'm pretty sure that all of you have Snapchat. I don't have any Snapchat. I'm too old for Snapchat. So there's this one Indonesian girl that so she communicated through Snapchat and she has a lot of friends online, obviously. And there is an incident when this girl, on purpose, used one of her male friend's pictures in her Snapchat without giving consent to this particular person. So we need to remember that we cannot use other people's properties without previously obtaining consent, right? So this male friend was angry and probably considered that this girl has been ignorant, right? So because he was very mad, he created this particular hashtag no Indonesian girls and circulated around the internet to warn everybody else that they need to be careful when they communicate with Indonesian girls because they're ignorant. So now for Indonesian girls, they are also mad because of the silly incidents done by one girl, so that our names have been bad in the internet, right? Even though I don't really know how it is like out there actually, because once again I don't use Snapchat. So but I would like to hear your opinion that you're going to record for 60 seconds, your strong opinion to this particular incident. So you have the freedom of representing whoever you want to represent. So you can represent the male friend in this case, yeah, if you want to. You can represent the Indonesian girl that did the bad communication in the internet. that caused the incident, or you can also represent the majority of Indonesian girls in our country. Okay, and then the second, okay, so that's the first option. The second option is going to be hashtag anti-mask. So it has also been circulating on the internet, not only in our country, not only in Indonesia, but also I'm pretty sure all over the world, because people have different opinion about, whether to follow the health protocol or not, how to respond to the health protocol, right? So there are certain groups of people who actually do not think that wearing mask is going to be able to reduce the virus transmission. So I would like to hear your opinion for this one as well. Probably what your opinion is about wearing masks, your view on the anti-maskers. All right. So record your 60 seconds video on your strong reaction for that one. Remember to avoid hesitation, repetition, and deviation. You still remember those, right? So speak naturally, avoid repeating certain terms or words, and try to stay in the context. Do not go out of the context of speaking. And don't forget to use nonverbal language. Remember, your facial expressions matter, your eye contact, because you're going to speak online, you're going to record a video. You can use like hand movement and things like that, body movement. And the last thing that we're going to include in our video this time is considering the ethics in public speaking. Okay, you need to consider the ethical values, the ethical points when you choose terms or words that you use in your speech, your body language as well. Don't use this one probably because it is not universal. Also related to plagiarism. So don't forget to give credits if you borrow somebody else's idea. Okay. And as usual, upload your video to our Google Drive in your folder. So we have discussed about ethics in public speaking. I'm going to see you in the next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be about preparing visual aids in public speaking. Stay safe wherever you are. Take care of yourself and people around you. Bye, guys.